So, what is school really for? It's a huge question, and it's one that innovators all over the world are asking. They're part of this global movement to completely rethink education right from the very beginning. In this explainer, we're going to dive into what that future could actually look like. Okay, just listen to this quote. It comes from an educator in Australia. And get this, he's not speaking metaphorically. His team literally bought an old jail, one built way back in 1861, to turn it into their new school. And wow, that image, it just perfectly captures the problem that so many people are trying to solve. Because for so many students, that's exactly what the traditional system feels like, right? A prison, a place that's hemmed in by the walls of standardized tests and super rigid rules. So, this idea of escaping the prison, that's the driving force behind why this kind of fundamental change isn't just a nice idea, it's an urgent necessity. So, let's break down the core conflict here, because it really comes down to two totally opposite philosophies. You've got the old model, which was basically born out of the Industrial Revolution to create standardized workers. It totally runs on fear, the fear of failing exams, and it's all about cramming your head with, as one educator put it, useless facts. This whole thing creates this artificial scarcity for university spots, and that drives the entire system. But the new model, it just flips that script completely. It's all about fostering a genuine love of learning, developing skills you'll actually use in the real world, and, most importantly, helping young people find their own unique purpose. Okay, so if we're throwing out that old map, we're going to need a new compass, right? This new vision for education is built on a completely different set of priorities, and it all starts with this core philosophical shift in how we see the learner. And this right here perfectly illustrates that shift. The concept is called will and skill. The whole idea is that you can't really teach someone skills, whether it's coding or calculus, if they don't have the will first. That means the attitude, the drive, the self-belief that they can actually succeed. You have to build the person first, and then you can build the professional. This idea of building the person first, well, it leads to a whole new set of priorities. We're talking about moving way beyond just test scores. The focus shifts to developing the whole person. And these are the new building blocks. Building character to make good choices, fostering resilience so you can bounce back from failure, prioritizing well-being, both mental and physical, teaching real collaboration for a world that's so connected, and even cultivating gratitude as a foundation for happiness. And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. This stuff works. Check out this story from a student at a school that focuses on real industry experience. She said her grades were kind of C's and she just felt like school wasn't her thing. But the second she moved to this new school, one with internships and connections to the real world, her grades shot up to A's. And you have to ask why, right? It's because the learning finally meant something to her. It had purpose. What's so cool is that these ideas are popping up all over the planet. This isn't just happening in one place, it's like a global chorus of innovation. So let's take a quick world tour and see what learning by doing actually looks like out there. First up, India. Over here, students aren't just reading about science in a textbook. No way! They are building solutions to massive, real-world challenges. We're talking solar-powered farming robots to help with agriculture, AI tools to monitor mental wellness, and even an affordable smart device to help visually impaired people pair their socks. This is learning in action. All right, now let's hop over to New Zealand. At one school, students get to do something they call breakthrough challenges. They get to set their own goals based on whatever they're passionate about. So you have one student who decided to create and publish her own recipe book. Another one taught himself how to play the clarinet. The learning is completely self-directed and deeply personal. Then you go over to Spain, and the classroom basically becomes a startup incubator. Students are launching actual businesses. They're developing business models, they're building prototypes, they're pitching their ideas at competitions. I mean, they're not just learning about business, they're actually becoming entrepreneurs. And finally, in the UAE, students are learning about sustainability by literally getting their hands dirty. They're working with vertical farms, cooking with professional chefs, and even exploring ancient techniques like fermentation. It creates this really deep, tangible connection to their food and the environment around them. Now, when you have students building robots and launching businesses and tackling these huge challenges, one thing is absolutely guaranteed. They are going to fail. And this might be the most radical change from the old model, how this new approach deals with failure. See, in the traditional system, failure is the end. It's a big red F on your paper. In this new world, it's the starting block. This quote from an entrepreneurship expert in Silicon Valley just nails it. Failing isn't the problem. The real problem is not learning the lesson from that failure. It's totally reframed as an essential ingredient for growth and innovation, not something you should be afraid of or ashamed of. So, how does that actually work? Well, it becomes a structured process. You don't just get a bad grade and forget about it. Instead, you do a postmortem. First, you analyze what went wrong. But just as important, you identify what actually went right. Then you figure out a different approach, and finally, you try again. Only this time, you're smarter. This is how you turn failure into resilience. So let's tie all of this together. Why does this transformation matter so much right now? Well, because the world itself is going through this massive seismic shift, and our schools have to prepare students for a future that looks nothing like the past. And this really gets to the heart of the challenge of our time. We are walking into an age of artificial intelligence, where machines can do routine stuff better, faster, and cheaper than we can. So the question for education isn't just how do we teach skills anymore? It's how do we cultivate the things that make us uniquely human? Creativity, critical thinking, collaboration. It's about how we help people find purpose when our old roles are being completely redefined. And that really leaves us with this final, powerful question. What if we measured how successful our schools are not by test scores, but by their ability to help young people build lives of purpose, connection, and real fulfillment? That's the blueprint these innovators are trying to build, and it might just be the future of school. Thanks for joining this explainer.